It's the March Show with Craig from Causyn's Cooling and Heating on the Queensway in Simcoe. Craig, good morning. Hope everything's going well. And I'm going to throw this right at you, this dumb question. Boy, this 25% on tariffs. Talk about your industry and the effect it's having, because I know it does. You and I have talked off air about this, and it just pisses me off. I got to be honest with you.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. First and foremost, thank you as always for having me, Dave. It's always a pleasure to be here. Yes. So my industry, the HVAC world, are three main things that we deal with: steel, aluminum, and copper, which are the top three things that are getting hit with tariffs. We absolutely will be affected by this. I'm already having my suppliers through manufacturing tell me that pricing that we get today could change week by week, day by day. It is going to be a drastic effect on us based on how things are going to move forward. So definitely recommend to anybody that's inquiring on any new HVAC equipment, whether it's furnace, air conditioner, heat pump, water heater, fireplace, whatever it may be, reach out to us. And just simply have a conversation. We are finding as a team here at Causyn's, we are spending more time with educating our customers in regards to stuff about our industry and the good, bads, and endeavors and in between as to what's going on and what's happening. So, yes.
I want to step aside for a second and ask, because you just brought up a great point. With coming through the pandemic and now this tariff, in a way, did the pandemic almost prepare you for all this stuff we're facing now? I know that's not a really fair question, but there was so much back then that was, people were struggling to get product, right?
Absolutely. No, it definitely is. And now we're going to see it even tighter as well, too. I heard from one of my suppliers that they told me now it's actually cheaper to manufacture products in Mexico, put them on a plane, fly them directly up to Canada and distribute it here than it would be to manufacture it in the US. And their current plant right now is in Des Moines, Iowa, which is only a few hours over the border, and drive it across. It's actually getting to that point now. So in one way, yes, it's prepared us. In another way, it's still hurting. A lot of people don't realize. Let's take a second and look at water heaters specifically. Water heaters still have 2 tariffs from the first time Mr. Trump was in power that are still there today. And now we're going to increase that even more. Majority of water heaters in Canada and United States, specifically the northern US, are Canadian steel. It's stamped and rolled, shipped across the border. Tariff. There, it's lined, insulated, the glass is sealed, and the cap's put on. And then it gets shipped back across the border. Tariff. Whereas here in Canada, then they install the gas valve, they pressurize the tank, make sure it's ready to go out for retail. So before that unit is finished its manufacturing process, it already has 2 tariffs on it. And now we're going to add all this. So it is going to be a big effect. Even there's one manufacturer who makes good equipment who boasts that it's made in Canada. No disrespect to them. It is a great product. It's not made in Canada. It's assembled in Canada, which is great, and I can't emphasize that enough. It is great. But majority of parts are coming from offshore and the other parts are coming from the US. So they still will be affected. Every manufacturer that we have currently will be affected in my industry. Doesn't matter who it is. Keep Right, Heil, Carrier, Lennox, Comfort Maker, Arco Air, Bryant, Payne. The whole list goes on. Train, York, Luxair, Goodman, everybody. Every brand currently available for HVAC will be affected.
I think this is a good time to remind people too, it's not you doing this. You're a small business like me, just trying to survive, find a way through all this. It's not you implementing these price changes or adding this tariff on. It's coming to you this way. So folks, just remember that. Support local small businesses. We still you still get product out of the US, like you said. It can be assembled in Canada. That's understandable, but you're still a Canadian business trying to find a way to get through this.
Absolutely. And we're doing everything we can. And this goes back to, I know we've said this before, but I can't encourage it enough, our maintenance plans. For $10 a month, get on the maintenance plan and help us protect your equipment, increase the longevity of the life expectancy so that you're not hit within a very high, surprising cost for either a repair or a replacement of product. We're also seeing, as we talked about on our last show, change in refrigerant in North America,
Yeah.
E2L, which is more environmentally friendly, yes, which is excellent for our environment. But with that, it has been deemed by Natural Resources Canada as moderately flammable. So there's more increases to production now in manufacturing for safeties, as well as for us as installers. There's increased pieces of the pie now that we must do by code to ensure safe operation of the product. So before any of this tariff stuff came around, we had anticipated price increases in our industry because of this change. And now we're throwing this on top of it. So there's going to be a lot of things happening here. So look at our maintenance plan, get on board, save yourself a bunch of money in the long run, protect yourself and protect your existing equipment.
Okay, 2 questions here. I know there's government plans out there, rebates that are in effect for HVAC. I want to go over that. But my follow-up question to that would be this. Do you foresee down the road the possibility of the government extending or making bigger rebates to help combat the tariffs that are now put in place?
100%. Absolutely. We as an industry are already lobbying for increased rebates because the current program right now, I highly recommend you reach out to us or whoever your local HVAC supplier is and contractor is and talk to them about it before you get really invested in making any decisions. Right now, the program sadly looks very aggressive on the brochure as far as appealing in your pocket. But when you cut through the details, the average rebate, instead of it being $7,500, which is what is advertised, which I get it, they always advertise the top, based on the average system being a 2-ton system, you will actually be looking at about $750 to $1,000 as the rebate. That's it. And there's quite a bit of work that needs to be done for qualifications. So nothing against it, but reach out to your contractor, reach out to us here, reach out to myself directly at Causyn's. To every single home is being separated as an individual assessment as far as how they will qualify, or even do they qualify, and what does the home have that will offer them opportunities for rebates. It is unfortunately very, very complicated compared to the previous program. So before you get too excited or too invested or have an expectation of what you could be looking at, give us a call here. We'd be happy to talk with you about it. I'll be happy to talk to you about it. See exactly how it would work and what you would qualify for. And then from there, you as the customer can make the best decision for your home.
And I think you're right. I think that's, with the current program, as you described it there, and hopefully down the road, they'll see the course to try and, make it a bigger, better rebate, obviously, with all these tariffs that are now being put in place so the Canadian consumer isn't paying another 25%. I think that's the critical point. On a positive note, springtime's in the air. Come on, buddy. Let's smile.
Right. That's right. Spring is around the corner and we will start to see some weather. So with that, again, I'm going back to maintenances. What we are seeing is we just came out of one of the heaviest winters we've had in a few years, which on one hand was kind of nice to see again. But with that, it forced a lot of homeowners' HVAC equipment to stretch its legs and really work itself, which it hasn't had to do for the last few years. With summer coming around the corner, again, get a maintenance done, talk about that, have our technicians stretch your equipment and make sure that it's working properly so it'll be prepared to handle it so you don't get caught with an unexpected high invested cost this summer with a repair or a forced replacement because it's not optional. What we are seeing too in our industry is with these changes of manufacturing and equipment, refrigerants and things going on, we are now seeing some parts just no longer available. So now you go into something and you're like, hey, so what the manufacturing guideline says is that they must maintain parts for so many years. Well, when I was growing up, Dave, and you were growing up, we used a product called Freon. And we used it for decades, and it was great. Yeah. Then we switched a little over 20 years ago to Puron, and now we're switching to a new refrigerant again. So anybody that has, a 20-plus air conditioner that's using Freon, what we grew up with, that's just depleted. That's now 3 generations ago of equipment. So manufacturers aren't required to maintain parts anymore.
So you can't transition that air conditioner then?
You can't transition that air conditioner. Now, don't get me wrong. There are a handful of universal parts that good companies like us and others will do our absolute best to try and repair it for you. But we are seeing a very big increase in parts where we go and they just flat out aren't available, which is kind of unheard of in our industry. That's something that we never really ran into. We could always find something and would say, hey, Dave, we can get this up and running. It's going to cost you this much money, but it's probably only going to last you a few more years. And then you say, okay, well, that gives me a few more years to save up for a new one. Great. And away we go. Now we're getting to the point where it's like, that's just flat out, they just don't make it. So either we quote unquote MacGyver something, which is no benefit, but we do have situations where that needs to be done for multiple different reasons. But the parts just flat out are no longer available.
That's crazy, really. It's like cars, right? Nowadays, you remember in the old days, you could actually just fix your own car.
Yeah. I know.
Right?
We had one the other day. It was a 2001 furnace, which to me doesn't feel like that long ago. And the pressure switches that were manufactured for it are no longer available. They do not make them. Now, we can take a universal one and make it work with a lot of other adjustments, which can be fine. But point being is that that car is now using a part to make it run that it was not designed for.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And that's the other part too, when you brought that up and just talking about the maintenance program. And again, a reminder to folks, right? Especially in this day and age, you got to stretch it. You got to make it work longer. It's the only way when you're trying to survive, let's be honest, you got to make sure these things work as efficiently as they can for their age.
Yes, exactly.
Kind of like us, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a disclaimer to our wives. We don't want to get in trouble too much here today, but that's I think this whole conversation today, and it seems like you and I have been doing a lot of these lately. I got to be honest with you, we're trying to figure out a way for folks to survive, like with their furnace, with their air conditioner, and like you said, the maintenance program is dirt cheap. Do it, folks. Save yourself the money and the time. Let Craig and his staff take care of the situation for you, because like you said, if you're trying to cobble things together, it's not the safest, it's not the best, but if you've got the original parts and it's cleaned and it's working well, leave it alone.
Exactly. And the way it's just like a car in a sense that when one part does start to go, it starts to put increased pressure on other parts inside the operation. This new equipment today is incredibly efficient compared to where we were 20 years ago, and that's amazing. But with that, there is more to it. And, okay, if my brakes start to go now, it's harder on the rotors. If the rotors start to go now, it's harder on the wheel, the ball joints. Like it's one thing to the next. So get ahead of that, folks. Don't let that happen. Don't get stuck or surprised with very expensive repairs, as that's the way, sadly, things are leading with tariffs, with product changes again, too. And we're seeing parts being depleted.
Last question. Do you foresee Canadian companies just doing it completely? Do you ever foresee the day when there's a Canadian line of furnaces that will rival that and built in this country that are comparable price-wise?
Yes. When I was a kid, one of the biggest names in our industry that I'm going to say confidently 7 out of 10, if not 8 out of 10 of all Canadian homeowners would have known this brand was made in Canada. They actually built it in a plant in Toronto that was close to the railway station because it was cheaper to have it made here and ship it on a train down to the US. And that manufacturer still owns that building, still runs out of it today as an accounting firm. They don't do any manufacturing there, but I definitely see it being as a possibility for multiple reasons. One, the tariffs, but two, as we all know, there's a lot of American companies that own Canadian companies. The big company is the American company, right? So if you're the American company down south and you're getting hit with these tariffs, but yet your dollar's worth 50 cents more than ours, would it be cheaper to have somebody pay up here and now I'm going to pay in American currency and I'm going to save 48 cents on the dollar? Absolutely. Right. So for multiple different reasons, I could see that happening. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I definitely could see it happening between the tariffs, between the dollar exchange, and between our government saying multiple times how they are prepared to invest in helping our economy should this happen. I think we could see a lot of production here.
I had this crazy thought the other day, and I thought, if you're a Canadian company, even if your product like yours, parts come from the States and whatever, why doesn't a Canadian company Why doesn't the Canadian government say to every Canadian company, don't worry about the GST?
Yeah.
Like 15% would, it makes it livable again,
Yeah.
right? And
Absolutely.
it gives that opportunity for a Canadian company to continue to grow and actually save itself some money.
Yep.
I think, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but I just think it's time that you gotta look. Now they need small businesses. They need us to survive more than ever. Help
Absolutely.
us. That would be my message to the government. You want us to keep growing? Help us grow. Don't stand in our way anymore.
I couldn't agree more. And well, companies were very appreciative of when they did that during COVID. One of the things that a lot of people don't realize was during COVID is that the only way you qualified for that is if you could show that your business was down 40%.
Yeah.
Don't let our small businesses get down 40% that now
No,
you give
'cause
them a break.
you're
Because they
not going to
won't
climb
survive.
back out of it.
That's right. We won't come back out of it multiple, whatever the business may be. So don't, I hope our government doesn't wait until we're getting kicked that hard and that low before they offer us some help and support. And that's for every Canadian business out there that's going on.
We didn't even talk about the possibility of layoffs. Like, we haven't this tariff thing is so big. Like, that's the other extension of this where we're going to need to help each other.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And what we need to do as Canadians is band together. I know I was reading an article the other day where it talked about some of the biggest plants that are going to get hit are in Alberta. But what we don't understand in Ontario is a lot of what we bring in here comes from that plant. So that means we are going to feel it too. And
Yeah.
every other province in between, and vice versa. So, yes, support local, support each other, and and do what we can to protect each other.
Okay, this has been the Dave and Craig Political Show, brought to you by all Canadian-made companies. No, great conversation. I always enjoy these with you. You're always, you get your business and you understand sort of the business motif of what's going on in this country. I appreciate you taking the time again today, Greg, just to talk to me about the HVAC system, the effect the tariffs are having on you, and getting ready for spring. Take care, buddy.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure, Dave. All the best, everyone.